This is Wildcat Country.
It's only right. The ball's in his hands. A milestone victory for Arizona. Simon says championship.
All the inside scoop on U of A athletics.
It's up for the end zone. Arizona has scored the touchdown. Wildcats win. Let's go to work,
fam. Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale. And yes, we look a little bit different this week. We are now part of the All AZ Podcast Network. Website to follow. Shane, this is a pretty awesome development for Wildcat Country going forward. That means people actually get to watch us do the show every week.
People get to check out our ugly mugs as we're talking the whole time. It's going to be fantastic. Appreciate this partnership with All AZ Sports. Our friends Sean Kreisman and Chris Schubert put this together, part of a bigger podcast network. Nothing's going to change. I think that's the big thing. If you want to listen on Apple and Spotify like you always have, you still have the option to do that. But we also have the video. So if you want to see us, you want to see our guests as we're chatting, we'll have you'll have that option, and we'll put it out on social media. We'll post clips along the week as well, throughout the week, and show where you can find us. But no, we're excited about this, and hopefully you are too if you're watching or you're listening. And like I said, nothing changes for you if you listen to Apple, Spotify, and we appreciate you doing so.
Yeah, and we'll tell you more about it as we go along. I think it's an exciting partnership, and I really like what the guys at All AZ Sports are going to do, and we'll tell you, as I said, more about that in the coming weeks. But our two guest interviews this week, you'll actually be able to watch. The first is with new basketball assistant coach TJ Benson, who will come up in the next segment. And then softball pitcher Alyssa Denham, who was through a shutout in Oregon on Sunday and then was drafted into a new professional softball league, or I believe it's second year, on Monday night, will join us. So you'll get a chance to hear and see Alyssa if you're watching on YouTube. But Shane, the big news this week comes on the basketball side, both men's and women's, with some recruiting news. Now, let me preface this by saying the Wildcats, I think this weekend, when Ty Washington, who's a five-star commit out of Chandler, I believe, is going to make his decision. It's likely between Arizona and Kentucky, and it doesn't sound good for the Wildcats at this point. Do you know anything different than I did?
No, just I'm reading the same stuff you're reading. You know, it sounds like Arizona was in the hunt, but then you look at these crystal ball predictions racking up, and one after another says Kentucky, and there's probably something to that. So, it would be great if Ty pulls a DeAndre Ayton and shocks everyone by choosing Arizona instead, but wouldn't count on it. In the meantime, Tommy Lloyd's really picking up where Sean Miller left off with the international recruits, which he was already good at Gonzaga, and partly by necessity there, kind of like Sean Miller was last year, adding a bunch of different guys. And you look at the media releases or the press guide at the beginning of each season, some of the harder names they always put in there with a pronunciation guide, like here's how to pronounce them. I think they're going to have to do that with just about every player this year because you have so many international guys and it's just growing. You know, Omar Ballo, Pella Larson, who just committed to Arizona as a transfer from Utah, who had a big game against Arizona last season. It'll be nice he's on our side next season. And then Adama Ball, we learned. Kamogard, one of the best international guys from France, only 17 years old. He's committed to play for Arizona, even though I don't think that's official yet. I don't think he's signed a letter of intent just yet. The other two guys have, so we can talk to TJ Benson about those guys. But you're filling out their roster now. You're looking at Kirk Risa, Zulis Tabelis, Ben Matherin are all sticking around. Christian Coloco, Dale and Terry, possibly Shane Noel, who hasn't decommitted like the other two guys from this class have under Sean Miller. But like you said, probably not Ty Washington. He's probably not going to be in this mix. If he is, great. If not, I think Tommy Lloyd's doing a good job. And this is kind of a weird year, Eric, in that this late in the year, there's still an opportunity to pick up some big-time transfers who are sort of testing the NBA waters but might actually come back to school. So Tommy Lloyd still has an opportunity to fill those last spots that he has open.
All right, Shane, can we be honest here? The transfer portal is stupid. I mean, the way things are going in college football and college basketball, it's just foolish. You know, I appreciated when players had to sit out a year when they transferred. Now, listen, I understand if there's a coaching change or whatnot, like in Arizona's case, James Akinjo, he wants to get out and all that. I understand that. But the fact is, if you commit to a coach and a system and you want to leave, but the coach is staying, I just don't like the free transfer rule. I don't like free agency in college sports. It's interesting for us to talk about, don't get me wrong. I'm just playing old school here. I don't love it.
I think Arizona is actually going to benefit more from it than they're going to be hurt from it this year because they have so many spots to fill. And it's interesting as well because you have guys who they're considering going back to their current school. They're considering going to another school. They're considering going to the NBA. I can't remember a time, especially this late in the process, where so much was up in the air, including Remy Martin. We learned is he going to go pro or is he going to transfer? Apparently, he's not coming back to ASU. That's all we know. So, and he won't be around to torment Arizona again, or stay down after he misses the last second shot. Anyway, so I think I agree. It's kind of out of control. I think this is a unique circumstance because of the pandemic, and I think that if you are a player whose coach has decided to leave or has been fired or whatever the case is, I think you should be able to go to another school and play right away. It's not through no fault of your own. If you decide to go and your coach is still there and the system's still there, then I think you should have to wait out a year. So it's not craziness every single year. But we're kind of in a weird time right now. So I'm not upset about it. I get what you're saying. But again, I think ultimately this year in particular, Arizona is going to benefit from it more eventually than they're going to not benefit from it, even though James Akinjo decided to leave.
All right. So I know it's probably not the most kosher thing, let's say, to talk about on the podcast, but with Remy Martin being a free agent, Wildcats likely needing a point guard, is there a fit? And is it even conceivable to think Remy Martin could be a Wildcat?
I can't imagine it, man. I can't imagine it. It's the same thing as, when I know you like to usually plug my book. I'm going to plug it for myself this time. Richard versus Graham. He talked about how his name was linked to the Arizona job, either as a head coach or a defensive coordinator after Rich Rodriguez got fired. And Todd Graham said, there's no way. There's no way he could. Thank you, Eric. For those who are watching, he's holding up a copy of my book right now. Appreciate it. I still need to sign that for you. But he said there's just no way, no how, because that rivalry was just so ingrained in his blood. I don't know if that's the case for Remy Martin. I don't even know if Arizona would be interested in him. We're just spitballing here. I don't know if that's going to happen. I kind of doubt it. I can't. How many cases do you know where someone is transferred to their rival in any sport?
It has happened with Ohio State and Michigan in football. I can think of a notable guy. Zach Boren was an offensive lineman in the mid-teens here that transferred from Michigan to Ohio State and played for the Buckeyes. For Arizona and Arizona State, you look at coaching staffs. Greg Byrne was an ASU alum that was the AD for Arizona. Vince Amy, former defensive tackle for ASU.
That's more common among. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. That's more common among coaches though, because the coaching carousel, a lot of guys have coached at both ASU and U of A. So that's more common than the player side, I would say.
Yeah, I can't think of in any sport, at least any of the, and I hate to use the term, but I'm going to do any of the major sports, and I won't classify what is and what isn't, of a player transferring from one of our schools to another. Now, we've seen decommits like Jarrell Robinson, the receiver, was committed to Arizona, then decommitted, went to ASU, and had a fine career as a Sun Devil. So we've seen decommits, and I'm sure we could probably go back and find more of those, but I can't think of any player that has played for both. So if anybody knows of one, let us know, and we'll give you a shout out on next week's show. I think it would be fascinating to watch Remy Martin in a Wildcats uniform, but it's not happening. I agree with you. Okay. We'll talk to TJ Benson coming up, finding out more about the men's team. But before we go to TJ, I want to ask you about the latest commit on the women's side, a 5-star commit that Adia Barnes got on Tuesday.
Our buddy Matt Moreno, I think, mentioned that Adia Barnes was after Maya Naji, of course, Zeke's brother, for
Zeke's sister,
almost
Zeke's sister.
Or sister, excuse me, for almost like 1,000 days, like she's been working on. So it's not just, even though I think that Adia Barnes and the women's basketball program is, I think they're going to benefit from their NCAA tournament run. There's no doubt about it. I think this one is more the result of Adia's hard work for years trying to get Maya Naji to come to Arizona. So it's not going to be for this season. It's next season. She's number 7 overall recruit, I think, according to ESPN. So it's a major commit. And so Arizona's already reloading. They're going to miss Aaron McDonald next season. They've already done a great job filling up their roster with transfers and other commits. So I think they're going to be a top 25 team next season. But if you're looking at a chance to maybe make another deep tournament run, the following season seems like it's more likely to happen then. And I think that this probably won't be the only maybe not top 10, but top 50 commit that Arizona gets for 2022. I'd be shocked if they don't get at least one more for 22.
I think when you said ESPN, I think everybody listening and I had the same thought. Screw ESPN and Mark Schlabach, because we're all thinking the same thing. Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, though, Adia is just a beast when it comes to recruiting and obviously coaching. She's done a great job. She is as we found out talking to Jay Johnson last week, she's just a rock star. I mean, we saw at the spring football game, you and I in person, how the reaction to her. Tommy Lloyd got a nice applause. Adia got, I mean, it was darn near a standing ovation from those in attendance.
Yeah,
just really cool.
Tommy, it was a golf clap. Nice, respectable golf clap. Clap for the new guy. And Adia, I could you imagine just a couple of years ago, where the women's basketball coach gets. I mean, I don't like to compare the two. I understand they're two separate programs, but still, it's Arizona's known as a men's basketball. Still, they have not been known as a women's basketball school. And here, the script has been flipped. Hopefully, soon they'll be known for both. We're going to have two teams that make deep tournament runs. But it's great to see, and it's great to see Adia keeping that momentum. And I hope that they have an opportunity to have a full house, both men's and women's, next season. And I'd be very interested to see what the attendance is going to be. I think you and I, Eric, are going to have to do maybe a bet at some point for the over-under on average attendance at the women's games next season, assuming that they're allowed to have a full stadium or a full arena.
Shane, as you well know, when have I ever turned down a bet? In all seriousness, once again, Arizona is a women's basketball school until proven otherwise. They were one shot away from a national championship. But this guy coming up next, TJ Benson, is on the coaching staff of Tommy Lloyd, and he is trying to help make Arizona, I guess, a men's basketball school once again. Let's find out what he has to say here on Wildcat Country. An awesome get this week, Shane, here on Wildcat Country. TJ Benson, newest member of the Arizona men's basketball coaching staff. You are a special assistant to the head coach. You're the recruiting coordinator. You're also a coach. First of all, can you tell us exactly what your day-to-day life looks like on the staff?
A little bit of everything right now. I mean, whether it's recruiting, academics, compliance, meeting with this person, that person. I mean, it's really just trying to get familiar with everyone here at U of A, and everyone's been great so far. I mean, they're making it as easy of a transition as possible. And at the end of the day, too, there's a lot of resources here that I really never have had at my disposal before. But overall, I mean, it's been a fun few weeks since I got officially on board.
So, TJ, why make the decision to follow Tommy Lloyd to Arizona?
I mean, Tommy gave me my chance at Gonzaga. When I decided to make a change a couple years ago at Grand Canyon, and he called me, probably 2 days afterwards and said, "Hey, you got a spot here at Gonzaga. I don't know what that's going to exactly entail." And you know what? It's something that he's always talking about it and preaching it to guys and people in general, but he didn't overpromise me anything. And because he never wants to underdeliver. And, that's one thing with me. I got up there and one thing led to another in a full-time position. And obviously I couldn't be more thankful for him, for Coach Few, Mike Roth, those guys up there. I mean, they took care of me from day one. And obviously now, the moment I had kind of gotten word from him that he was going to have a chance to get this job, I said, "Hey, you get it. I'm right there with you."
So how far back does your relationship go with Tommy Lloyd, and how did your time with him at Gonzaga help prepare you for the role that you accepted at Arizona?
I actually think I look back on it. The first time I actually met him was at an Outback Steakhouse in Anaheim, California with Jeff Linder, who's now the head coach at University of Wyoming. I didn't really know who he was at the time. It was like I think it was my first year as an assistant at Grand Canyon. And, we got to know each other a little bit then, but it just kind of developed over the years. And then I actually recruited his son, Liam Lloyd, who's now at Grand Canyon. And It's something that has evolved, and it clearly gave me the opportunity to get up there. And I mean, just the last 2 years, I mean, when you're learning from, great people and great minds like Coach Few and Coach Lloyd, I mean, it's something where I had personally, being an assistant, I'd done a lot of things just through my own experiences, but to see it done at the level that those guys have been doing it at for, 20 plus years now, it's stuff that really just kind of opened my eyes, and to see how they do it and how they treat people and the relationships that they have with so many, individuals throughout, the business and whatnot. It's something that I can't even put into words how much I learned over the last few years from them.
What can you tell us about the makeup of this coaching staff? Give kind of the fans an overview of what this bunch is all about.
I mean, you're just going to have a bunch of good dudes that want to have fun and win basketball games. And, that starts obviously with Coach Lloyd. I mean, I think he's one of the best human beings that I've ever come in contact with. I mean, he's genuine, he's passionate, he's energetic. I mean, he just cares about people and kids, and it doesn't matter, who it is. I mean, he's someone that just genuinely cares and wants to help people out. And, that trickles on down to Coach Murph. I mean, I know him from, when he was at NAU and getting to know him and be on the road, and just another genuinely great guy. And then, Jet, I just getting to know him, but, through different guys that I know, whether it's Matt Brazzi, who coached me at Grand Canyon for a year, Russ Pennell, those guys have nothing but great things to say about him. And then even the rest of the staff. I mean, Ken Nakagawa, I worked with him the last 2 years. Rem Backmus is a guy that's just, oozing with energy and excitement all the time too. So you just got a bunch of really great people, and I know we're all excited to be here.
So one thing that's interesting about you guys coming here at this time is the roster turnover. And currently Arizona has 4 open scholarships. And I want to ask you about a couple of new players that have signed on recently. Omar Ballo, who you know from Gonzaga, and then obviously Pelly Larson, who just came on this past weekend from Utah. What can you tell us about them?
I mean, I'll start with Umar just because I got, the last 2 years, experiences with him. And he's another one, just a great kid. When he came to campus, he was 17 years old. And, he's someone that I think Tommy, obviously had a great relationship with him. And I've developed that the last 2 years. But you're going to get everyone nicknamed him, he's Baby Shaq. I mean, he really is a big kid. I think he's got a lot of work still to do, and room to improve and get better. But he's someone that I don't think he's quite tapped into what he's really capable of doing yet. And I know that, we want to kind of give him a fresh start. And I think you're going to have people here that are going to work with him and develop him and hopefully, achieve that, down the road. And then Larson, I just watching Pac-12 games and then clips you see on him. I mean, he's an extremely versatile guard wing that can play multiple spots. He can shoot the ball extremely well. I think the way we're going to play with him in terms of ball screens and multiple sides, multiple actions, I think it's something that he's going to definitely thrive in. And that's one thing that you watch, I don't want to refer to Gonzaga too much, but you watch the way that we play, it's going to be a similar style. And to have guys like him, multiple players on the floor that can play multiple spots and have the ball in their hands and make plays is something that, we're really trying to emphasize.
TJ, what is a Tommy Lloyd kind of player? I'm not just talking about on court. I'm talking about, off the court, personality wise. What kind of guys is he looking for?
He just wants great kids with, high character. I mean, I think you get those, and then you add in obviously you want skilled kids who can do different things on the basketball floor and make the right reads and decisions. But to me, we want to be able to work with great kids, smart kids, and that's the culture that we want to have here. And it's always a cliche, in my opinion, when you talk about culture, but that's why, I think that's why he had a big part in why he got the job. And, he's trying to obviously have, kind of bring those similar ways to Arizona. Not to say that hasn't been the case in the past, but he definitely wants to have good kids with great character.
I know coaching and playing in the Valley, I'm sure you got familiar with the U of A men's basketball program. I know you took a trip down to Tucson a few years ago when you were at GCU. Lopes played U of A down there. It was actually a pretty close game. I remember some Lopes fans making noise down there. It's rare forever for opposing fans to be heard in Tucson. But just tell us about some of your memories or encounters with the U of A men's basketball program as a player or a coach that stand out to you.
Like you kind of obviously talked about, I kind of come full circle in a way here. Whether it was my time at Weber State playing, I didn't play a whole lot. I think I got about 30 seconds at the end of the half. In that one, Grand Canyon, we had, one thing I remember at the Grand Canyon game especially, I think we cut it to maybe 4 points, and we had a chance to cut it to single digits. And I just remember how loud McHale got. And people got on their feet, and it's like they were like, okay, we need to, this is our, we need to get our team back in this chain, go in the right direction here. But that's something that I know that everyone missed this last year, was having fans in the stands. And I just know that every single night, McHale is always packed. The fans are what they are in terms of just support, being loud. And to me, I think that's something that's always just stuck out to me, is just the constant support that you get from the community here. It's the only show in Tucson, and you know what? It's definitely a special place.
So this is kind of a tough one, TJ. So I'm going to throw you on the spot here. Expectations for year one. What, as fans, should we expect to see, and what is realistic in terms of how far this team should go in year one, as best you can answer that?
I think that in year one, expect us to play hard, play smart, and to have a lot of fun. I think that we are going to have some talent. You look at the guys that are returning with, Kerr, Dalen, Ben, Christian, Azulis. The cupboard wasn't bare. That's not by any stretch. And I think there was some stuff that had us, in the top 25 and some preseason stuff before some departures, but I think we're going to continue to add to the roster. And I think once we kind of get that filled out, we'll have a better idea of the expectations. But the three things I said, those are something I know we're not going to, there'll be non-negotiables at the end of the day, and I think we'll have a lot of fun doing it.
What did you learn from coaching at Gonzaga this year, especially the run that you guys made, undefeated up to the national championship game, just the incredible moment in the semifinals with Jalen Suggs? What did you learn as a coach from what you experienced this past season?
I think the biggest thing probably with anyone can attest to this is you just got to learn to adapt and be flexible with anything and everything going on. This was such a crazy year for everyone in all facets of life. And it was never going to be perfect. There was times where we're rescheduling games, 2 or 3 days in advance, and you just have to mentally prepare yourself on quick turnarounds. And I think that that's just the biggest thing, is just, mentally, being prepared for anything and everything, and to really just adapt quickly. Because if you don't, you're gonna pay for it. And I think for us, we went on a heck of a run, and our players, I give all of them all the credit in the world. Is to go as long, to go 31-0, and hey, we lost the national championship, and Baylor was the better team that night, no doubt about it. But to have your target on your back every time, every day out, and to obviously go what those guys went through, there's a lot to be said about that.
My last question for you, TJ. I was able to be there for the Final Four in Glendale when your brother Casey competed for Oregon, and then the following year when he played for GCU. I believe he's playing overseas now. Just can you tell us how is Casey doing these days, and do you think he might ever follow in your footsteps and become a coach at some point?
Casey's doing great. He's actually in Phoenix now working out, but he just finished year 3 professionally. He's actually been in Slovenia for 2 of the 3 years, and then year 2 he was kind of between Finland and Bulgaria. But he's still hooping. He still loves to do it. He keeps getting better. I know for him, that's just something I think is, as long as and I keep telling him, hey, if you can keep playing and make good money, do it. Your body eventually wears out on you, but he's talked about coaching. I don't know exactly what level he'd want to do. He's seen my journey as a coach, and I got a chance to coach him for a year at Grand Canyon. But I think that when he decides to hang it up and playing wise, it definitely will be an option for him if it's something he really wants to pursue.
Well, TJ Benson, newest member of the Wildcats basketball coaching staff, we really appreciate you taking time to join us today, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon. Best of luck, and bear down.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks to TJ Benson for joining us. Really cool to talk to a member of the new coaching staff, find out a little bit more about Tommy Lloyd. Who is he, what he represents, and I'm just really excited. His style of play, Sean Miller, and I'm not going to go on the Sean Miller as a coach thing again, which I've done before. I'm excited to see what the style of play that Tommy Lloyd's going to bring to Arizona.
I am too, and something I asked TJ after we stopped recording for that interview. We had a couple minutes to chat with him after about some of the differences between the atmosphere of the arena at Arizona and Gonzaga and GCU and some other places. And he sort of reiterated what I've said before and what I've thought about is that one of the differences between McKale Center and a lot of other college basketball arenas that I think makes McKale special is everyone gets up and makes noise at McKale Center. It's not just the student section. The student section, even a GCU arena, which is a great atmosphere, but it's only the student section. It's only the Havocs, right? At McKale Center, everyone gets up and makes noise. Like Bill Walton says, rising as one. And I think part of that is because there wasn't always a student section at Arizona. In fact, there wasn't until I think toward the end of my time there when I was a student. So the whole crowd had to get involved. And beyond that, the fact that Arizona Wildcat fans make noise, sometimes they make the most noise at that arena when the team isn't doing well, when they need a pickup, when the team gets off to a bad start, or a team is making a run to get back into a game, like when GCU did when they played Arizona when TJ was there a few years back. And that was something even Sean Miller noted a couple of years ago. It's that they're very smart, knowledgeable fans, and sometimes all they need is like one basket or one free throw to make noise. And sometimes, like I said, they'll make the most noise when the team isn't doing well. And that is something that really makes McKale feel like more like an event than just a game. And fans don't just sit on their hands waiting for the team to pick them up. A lot of times it's the other way around. And I think TJ Benson and all the newcomers at Arizona are going to love that. It's something we missed last season, something they missed. They're going to love that going into this coming season if they haven't experienced it already.
I think it's a great point. I mean, when you think about the crowd, I mean, we've been to games. Everybody listening to this podcast has probably been to a game at some point, or most of you, and have seen just exactly what Shane was talking about. The other thing that I just want to mention briefly, it just seems like this administration and Tommy Lloyd in general will be a lot more fan-friendly and media-friendly than Sean Miller, but I guess I understand why, considering the scrutiny that Miller has been through over the last few years. All right, Shane, abruptly switching topics. Every week we do the Wildcat Sports Roundup, and this week is no exception with some big news from the tennis world.
Big shout out to our men's tennis team making the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. A great season. One of their best seasons in 40 years or so is continuing. They defeated Michigan in the first round of the NCAA tournament. It's the same. If you don't know, it's the same format really as the men's and women's. It's a 64-team tournament. They beat Michigan in the first round. They upset host Kentucky in the second round. Kentucky was the host of that particular region. Then they're going to go on to face the nation's third-ranked team, Tennessee, in the third round. So that's a big test for them. But even if their season ends against Tennessee, fantastic all-around season. Arizona is now a men's tennis school in addition to being a women's basketball school. So I want to throw that out there. Congratulations to those guys. Also, I just want to mention real quick, the men's golf team competes in NCAA regionals beginning on Monday. Women's golf team has already begun its regional tournament. As we're recording, we don't know whether they'll advance, so keep an eye out for those as well. Also, just want to talk about the baseball series. We had Jay Johnson on last week and talked about the what ended up being a 10-game winning streak for Arizona that was snapped at Stanford, a very good 16th-ranked Stanford team at the time. Arizona outscored Stanford by 8 runs in that 3-game series, and they lost 2 of them. Just how baseball goes sometimes, because they beat Stanford 20-2 in the game they won. I was more impressed, Eric, with the 2 than with the 20, though, because That's what they're gonna need in order to make a deep postseason run. Garrett Irvin pitched 7 fantastic innings for them. The game before that, they lost in 13 innings, 5-4. It could have gone either way, so the series could have gone either way. Their bullpen allowed 2 runs, 1 earned, on 5 hits in 7 innings. So they're going to need more of that. The fact they're a great hitting team, one of the best, arguably the best in the country. The pitching is coming around. Even though they lost 2 out of 3 in that series, it was on the road against a top 20 team. Not a huge deal in my opinion. They're still going to probably be able to host a regional, a super regional if they get there. But as long as the pitching, especially the bullpen, continues to be this strong, I think they could go to the College World Series and even make some noise when they get there.
I think we're at the point, Shane, as we talked about last week, if Arizona does not make the College World Series, I think we're going to be disappointed. If they, they're going to have home games likely up until then. They're going to be a top 8 seed, which means they're going to host both rounds of the NCAA tournament. And if they don't win them, and they've been a great home team all year, if they don't win them, I think we're all going to be shocked. I really do. Who knows what happens when you get to Omaha in an 8-team tournament, double elimination, but I think the expectation is Arizona should be in Omaha with this good of a team.
I think it's a little harsh to say it's a disappointment, but I will say that I guess it would be a surprise to be fair about it, because they are very, very likely going to be a top 8 seed, which means they would host a super regional if they get that far. If they lose in the regionals, that's easily a disappointment. In the super regionals, they lose a tough best of 3 series after missing the tournament or the postseason for I don't know how many years in a row. I don't know. I think that's a little harsh, but I do think that they are a top 10 team, even though they fell out of the top 10 in 4 out of 5 polls. I thought that was a little harsh as well by the pollsters, losing 2 out of 3 to a ranked team on the road like they did. But be that as it may, I think they're certainly capable of making it to Omaha. As long as they get to the super regionals and put up a good fight, to me, that will be sufficient in terms of the progress that I was hoping they were going to make this season. But that's just me.
Nah, don't settle, Shane. Don't settle. We achieved greatness at the University of Arizona. We got to the national championship game, 1 shot away from a title on the women's side, a women's basketball side. We said all year, anything less than an Elite 8 is a disappointment. Well, they exceeded our expectations and more. So you know what? Set the bar high. And the other team that we really have a high bar for is the women's softball team. And I know they kind of had a weird series in Oregon last weekend, a 4-gamer, which seems odd for the Pac-12, but hey, what can I say? Yeah,
well, the series started off in a really tough way, and it was kind of more of the same because Arizona's been – the softball team this year, they beat up on the lesser teams, but they've really struggled against some of the top 10, top 15 teams. Hannah Bowen carried a no-hitter into that 7th final inning of the first game. And then Oregon went on to not only break up the no-hitter, but win on a walk-off. So that hurt. And then they lost the first game of the doubleheader the next day. But they responded, and which is something we really haven't seen a lot of from them this season. They grinded out a 4-3 win in the second game of the day in the doubleheader. And then the next day, our guest coming up, Alyssa Denham, pitched a shutout to earn a 4-game split in Eugene, which a 4-game split on the road against, I think, a number 12 Oregon team at the time. Pretty good. Our friend Jesse Harper, who we've had on this podcast, both the previous version and this version, hit a home run in that game to bring her closer to the all-time NCAA record. So it's a big day for the seniors. And then it got even bigger the next day when Jesse Harper, Alyssa Denham, Deja Mulipola, they were all selected in the Athletes Unlimited draft. Now, what is the Athletes Unlimited draft, you ask? I had to look it up too because I honestly wasn't familiar. But it's a fairly new pro league that sort of has a fantasy format. They weren't drafted by teams. All that's going to be sorted out. A lot of other former U of A players are also a member of that league. But Arizona represented a full 1/4 of the selected draft field. They were the only school that had more than 1 selection, and they had 3. So great news and great publicity for the Wildcats, and it continues the trend of female student athletes at Arizona being selected to play professionally after Ari McDonald and Trinity Baptiste were picked in the WNBA draft.
Excellent point. And congratulations to those 3 ladies. And we'll talk to Alyssa Denham here momentarily. I will say this before we have her on. One of the most interesting statistics that I have seen in a long time from a University of Arizona sports team is in jeopardy this weekend. The Wildcats are 24-0 at home. This is their last regular season home series. They play the number 2 ranked UCLA Bruins, who are 38-3 on the year. What gives? I guess we're going to find out. Shane, you want to make a pick on that series? What happens?
I'm not going to make a pick. I think another 4-game split would be fantastic against a team like UCLA. That would show that this team really could make another trip to the College World Series, which was the baseline going into the season. And really, I don't think there's a program at Arizona year in and year out that has higher expectations. I know the men's basketball program gets the most attention, but the softball program, when you have a coach who's coached the Olympic team and you have so many national championships, I think that's the baseline. And I think if Arizona's able to carry over that momentum and at least get a 4-game split at home against UCLA, that might not be satisfactory to the players. It'd be satisfactory enough for me, at least, to show that they are capable of getting to Oklahoma City and being a contender when they get there.
Well, let's talk to Alyssa Denham and congratulate her on one of the best 48-hour stretches that a University of Arizona athlete has had in quite a while here on Wildcat Country. Is there any college athlete that's had a better last 48 hours than Alyssa Denham, softball pitcher for the Wildcats women's softball team? I don't think so. I mean, first of all, she throws a shutout on the road at a top 12 ranked Oregon team. I think they're 11th right now. And then she gets drafted 11th overall in the Athletes Unlimited Softball College Draft. First ever one. You were one of 3 Wildcats drafted. Alyssa, congratulations. Just tell us what these last 48 hours have been like for you, starting with the first inning in Oregon.
Well, thank you. It's been so exciting and just a little overwhelming. The first inning, I took the field, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a little congested. I was a little sore from the day before, so I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to rely on my spin a lot today. But I knew that taking the field, it was going to be a matter of being a competitor and taking each pitch at a time and just really giving everything that I possibly had. Coach talks about Championship Sunday, and that's kind of what it's about. Is everybody's tired at this point, so it's a matter of who can compete and who pulls it through.
Alyssa, it certainly looks like this team might peak at the right time. You had a couple of tough losses at Oregon to start that series, and then bounce back and win the last 2. And obviously, you had a huge part in the last game. You pitched a shutout in the finale. What do those wins do, in your opinion, to boost the confidence of this team going into such a tough series against UCLA?
I think what's really cool right now about our team is that the losses that we're taking, we're learning different lessons from each loss. So I feel that we're getting stronger and stronger, and that's what allows us to bounce back and win those last 2 games. Because, we realize that the quality at bats, good defense, and good pitching, really those 3 components is what takes to win a game. And so I think that our hitters, they're phenomenal hitters. And so I know that they're going to peak at the right time. And as a pitching staff, we just need to continue to keep us in games and give our hitters an opportunity to win. So I just think it's really cool to be building the momentum to go into this weekend and past this weekend.
Okay, so like Eric mentioned, you were one of 3 Wildcats to be selected in the Athletes Unlimited College Draft. For those like myself who admittedly don't know much about Athletes Unlimited, could you explain it to me like I'm 5 and tell me how all that works and what you're about to get into?
So basically, Athletes Unlimited is the new thing for professional college softball or after softball. So I guess it is about 57 to 60 athletes, and only 12 college athletes got drafted this year. And so I thought it was wonderful and a great reflection on Arizona to have 3 of us get drafted, because I believe that we're the only school that had multiple people from our school. So I take a lot of pride in that, and I'm just super excited for our program overall. But then basically we'll go to Rosemont, Illinois, and have every week it's ranked based on a point system. And I believe it's the top 4 people are the captains. So each week the teams will be different based on who the captains pick that week. And it's a grind. I've heard that, it's extremely hard because you're playing, I think, almost every day for about a month.
Wow. Are you, in doing this, was this something you were excited about from long ago? I guess this league started last year. Was this something you had your eye on from the start of the season? Or did this kind of just come about hey, okay, cool, I'm drafted, I'll go with this?
So I have kind of been back and forth whether I wanted to try to play professional or not, because I wasn't really sure what my career had in store for me. So I want to be a teacher and a coach. And so with it being August to September, it was kind of difficult because I had to pass up a coaching job and teaching job in order to play this professional. But when it came down to it, I just knew that this was the last opportunity that I would have to play softball, and I just wasn't quite ready to hang my cleats up.
Speaking of your season, you're 17-6 with a 1.69 ERA, which is fantastic. But one thing that really stands out to me, in 120 innings pitched, you've only given up 5 home runs. What is your key to not letting the ball leave the ballpark? Because some of your teammates have had problems with, in all honesty, with giving up the home run ball. You have not.
I think the main difference is that I'm a drop ball pitcher, so I think that that's my job, is to keep the ball in the ballpark. And the few times, like if I elevate the ball, then that's when they do take advantage of it. So I think as long as I keep the ball around the kneecaps, then I'll be good. But I very rarely go up in the zone, so I feel like that's also why I don't give up many home runs.
So, Alyssa, like I mentioned, you have a huge regular season finale, postseason implications, I'm sure, regional seeding implications against number 2 UCLA, home games for you, expanded capacity, so hopefully more fans there. Maybe this is the best rivalry possibly in college softball, maybe over the last 10, 20 years, however long it's been. What's the team's mindset going into this series, and what do you need to do to make sure that you take care of business against a Bruins team I think it's lost only 3 games all season?
Yeah, I mean, this rivalry, this is definitely like a weekend that all of us have been waiting for. I mean, senior weekend, I know personally I have like 14 family members flying from Texas and to watch this. So I'm just super excited that they're going to be able to be in the stands, and along with the rest of the fans that will be allowed to be there. I think that for us to be successful, as I mentioned, I mean, Coach talks about putting together quality at bats, and I mean, I totally believe in our hitters. I mean, I would put our hitters up against anybody any day. And then as a pitching staff, like I said, just keeping us in ball games. And I mean, Coach T has always told us that if we can keep the team to lower than 2 runs, then we have a chance to win. So that's our goal as a pitching staff, is to always keep our team in ball games. And then obviously our defense. I personally rely a lot on defense, and I mean, we have done phenomenal this year on defense, and just like we always do. But I just think it's super cool that, man, like what a big weekend. I mean, like we have Rachel Garcia, that was the number 1. We have us 3. We have all of these amazing athletes. I mean, we have all the younger classmen that are just doing a great job, and I just think it's going to be such a great weekend.
Has it sunk in for you, Alyssa, that you only have a few weeks of college softball left, and that I know you've been waiting a long time, especially because last year with the pandemic, that this is it and this is your big moment? Has it sunk in that this is the end of the line for you?
So it didn't really sink in until yesterday when I was watching the draft, and it was to like the number 10 pick. And I'm like, oh man, like, I'm big in my faith. And so I was like, whatever God has in plan for me, like that's what I'm going to go with. And, I can't question it. And then sure enough, when that hit and number 11 was called and it was me, I mean, I just started crying. I immediately called my family. And so I have a bunch of nieces and nephews. I have 8 nieces and nephews. And I mean, all of my nieces play softball. And so I just like really got a little soft spot in my heart, because I hope that this is what the game grows to in the future, like for my nieces that play. And I just thought that it was such a cool thing that I could be a part of the growth of the game.
That is really cool, Alyssa. That is very, very cool. And congratulations once again on that. One thing that I was looking at that's very interesting about this year's softball team, you guys are undefeated at home, 24-0, and only 1 game over 500 on the road. What about Hillenbrand Stadium makes it so special to play there? And consequently, what makes it so difficult? I mean, I guess winning on the road is tough anyways, but it's such a dramatic home road split is crazy to me.
Yes, I mean, playing in Hillenbrand, I mean, there's no other feeling. I mean, that's our home turf. We own that field. We know every single thing about it. And I think when people walk into Hillenbrand, I think their eyes get big because it's like a wow factor. I mean, very few softball stadiums are as big and beautiful as Hillenbrand. And so we're just lucky enough to play and practice on it every single day. And then winning on the road, it's a difficult thing. I mean, obviously walking into somebody else's home turf and But I think that we're going to win on the road when we need to. And so I'm just excited to see what the future has for us.
So when it comes to the playoff, or when it comes to the postseason, getting home field advantage has to mean so much more for you guys, not only for the first round, but obviously I think it's what the regional finals is how it's referred to. Where do you guys stand with that from what you know of thus far?
I believe we're like either 8th or 10th, somewhere around there. Yeah. And ideally, we need to be like top 8 or really the highest that we can possibly get. So I think that that's also why this weekend's going to be really important for us. With UCLA number 2, we win that, we're going to really lock in a super regionals, in my opinion. And so I think that's what's really important for us at this point.
All right, Alyssa, I got 2 more questions for you. We really appreciate your time coming before a huge week for your team. Regardless of how this season ends and your collegiate career ends, when you look back at your time at Arizona and the time you spent in Tucson, what do you think you'll remember the most fondly?
Really, I think that I'm going to remember the growth that I've had as a person. When I came here, I was super shy. I probably wouldn't even be comfortable right now giving like an interview. So I think just like the growth overall as my personality has come out of my shell, I think that I have expanded who I am. I think that I've grown so much, and it's just kind of crazy that I came in when I was I think I was like 19, and now I'm 23. So it's kind of crazy. But really, just like I came to Arizona to fulfill my dreams, right? And like how if I left here, I would feel that I completely did every single thing that I did. So when I hang my cleats up at the end of the day, that I would know that I gave it my all and I reached my maximum potential. And so I think that I can really say that I have done every single thing that I can, and that, Coach and Coach T and everybody here on the staff has really helped me to fulfill that dream.
All right, and you mentioned the possibility of coaching in your future. Would one day the stars align like Adia Barnes did with the women's basketball team? Would you want to come back and be a member of this coaching staff?
What a dream that would be. So for right now, I'm more thinking high school. I think that would be a good starting point for me. But that would be incredible. And that's what I ultimately want to do, is be a pitching coach. And so that would be so much fun.
Well, Alyssa, we thank you not only for joining us, congratulate you on a great season thus far, and for getting drafted on Monday. What a thrill that was, and we expect nothing less than to be watching you pitching in Oklahoma City in about a month from now.
Thank y'all so much.
Want to thank TJ Benson, special assistant to the head coach and recruiting coordinator for the men's basketball team, and of course, softball pitcher Alyssa Denham for joining us here on this week's show. Want to thank our friends at All AZ Sports for having us on here doing video podcasts. Been a lot of fun. There's some adjustments, Shane, but we're having a blast with it, and really glad to work with Sean Crespin and Chris Schubert and the crew. And great show, and we'll be back next week with more awesome content. For Shane Dale, I'm Eric Cohen, and as always, bear down.